There we got our turkey. We actually got two. So I headed out today to go turkey hunting and walked right outside and walked right over this ridge, and there was 15 turkeys in our backyard, and I was able to hit two. So 2 turkeys ready to process, clean, and get ready to eat. We've got our turkeys here. I harvested these two yesterday evening, so just a little bit before dusk, and it started getting too dark to really be able to fully clean them. So what I did is I gutted them, which is very simple on a turkey. You can see that these are already gutted. When you harvest a turkey, you want to gut it as soon as possible. Really with anything, gut it as soon as possible because it'll keep the meat from spoiling, and it'll help that animal cool down, help this bird cool down really fast. And so you can see here, really you just take it from the breastbone here, if you can see that, and you just cut it down, open it up, reach in, pull everything out. Keep the liver, keep the heart, everything else you can throw away. We got 2 pretty birds here, and what we're gonna do is process these birds. I hear a lot of people say that they don't like wild turkey, and if you don't like wild turkey, it's because you're not doing it right. So we're gonna show you how to do this thing right. We're gonna do this right together. And really it starts from beginning to end. So with this bird, you know, like I said, we gut it right away. Make sure it's really clean. So after I gutted it, I rinsed it out. And then it's pretty cold here, so it was down to about 20 degrees last night. So I left these in a plastic bag out on the deck with a blanket over them so they wouldn't freeze. It's preferable and ideal to pluck your bird as soon as possible. You can also dip them in hot water, about 150 degree water, let them soak for about 60 seconds or so until the feathers start coming out easily. And you can pluck it that way as well. We're just gonna pluck this thing as is. We're just gonna go slow. And we're taking small handfuls of feathers and giving them quick jerks. We don't want to take big, I know it's, you want to get in a rush and you want to grab big handfuls of feathers and yank them out, but if you do that, you're going to tear the skin. It's not the end of the world, but if we can keep that skin intact on that bird, the better, because as we're cooking, it's going to hold all those juices in. So we're going to take our time and just kind of move over the bird and get all these feathers out. You can see also both of these birds shot in the head, which is where you want to aim when you're hunting for a turkey. You want it to be quick and clean. So you know, these are big birds, so if you hit them in the body, a lot of times you're not going to kill them. They're going to run off. You don't want that. We don't want things to suffer, and we certainly don't want it to run off and go and die somewhere else. A lot of times I will do this while I'm out hunting. So if I harvest a bird, almost right away I will gut that bird and get that bird plucked right there while we're out in the field, out in the bush, out in the woods. Gets the work done there, and again, you know, the sooner you do it, the better, and also the easier it is, because again, those feathers are going to come out a lot easier. So you can see here also we got a young Jake. Here's his beard right here. Got a little baby beard going on, and he should be really good eating. Those old grizzly birds that are the nice prize, the to put in the picture, but these younger jakes, younger birds are going to taste better. They're not going to be quite as grizzly and old. So I can remember last spring I was turkey hunting, and we pulled into an area that was supposed to have a lot of turkeys. And as we started driving into this kind of park area, there's a little pullout for cars, and there was probably in that pullout, I would say, at least 20 dead toms, like just big old. I mean, that trip we didn't get a bird until the very end, so at that time we were just salivating over the size of these turkeys that were laying there. And clearly that area had been cleaned out of birds, but people that had harvested those birds just took them, cut the breast out, left the birds there on the side of the road. And I get it in the sense that this is very tedious. This takes a long time. You could kill a tom, cut the breast out, be on your way. But I think two things really about that. One, it's not really honoring the animal and using as much of it as we possibly can. And two, there's just so many good things you can do with this bird, and so much of that was just gone to waste if you just take a little time to do the work, put the work in right now, take the time, and do a good job processing this bird. We're able to harvest the liver and the heart. We're going to be able to do, with this one in particular, after we brine it, I think we're going to spatchcock it. So I'm going to show you how to do that, which is a super fun way to grill this turkey. You know, I think nowadays, especially with the way meat is processed these days, I mean, if you're going to eat meat, I think it's more ethical nowadays to go out and hunt something that led a good life out in the wild, how it was supposed to live. You against it, man against beast, enjoying our outdoors, enjoying the adventure of it, making an experience of it, having stories to tell around the dinner table. It's such a better way to eat than to buy meat in the grocery store now.
That led horrible lives, that were raised in confined spaces, fed things they're not supposed to eat just to fatten them up as quickly as possible. We're pumped full of growth hormones and antibiotics and bleached and who knows what else.
So I really view it as a pleasure to get to come out and hunt something and process it like this. It might be tedious and it might take a long time, but it's so worth it. Especially when you're sitting around the dinner table, sharing it with friends who are enjoying it, or sharing it with family who are enjoying it, or just eating it yourself and enjoying it, and knowing where it came from, and appreciating the adventure that came along with it. So at this point, we're going to get the wings off. You can see here. A lot of these birds, these are both small males, so not necessarily really worth keeping the tail feathers or the wings as like a trophy. I do have quite a few that I've dried myself and have kept. If you do that, you're going to cut that here along that bone, so see right where that is. You're going to take that wing and you're going to lay it out, trim as much meat off it as you possibly can, because that's what's going to spoil. Pin it in the position that you want it to dry. Keep it in a nice circulated place. You don't want it in the house because it's going to smell like a wet dog for a little while. But you could take and put borax on it and really rub that into any exposed meat, and let that dry for a couple weeks, depending on time of year and how warm and dry the environment is that you're drying it in. But it's a cool way to save a wing. You can also save the tail feathers, which obviously they didn't have a huge fan here, but you just go and you trim that off. And do the same thing, trim as much meat off as you can, work some borax into that, pin it into the position that you want, and let that dry. Cool when you have a big, huge turkey fan, a big old grizzly Tom. But it's your first turkey, I would suggest doing it on whatever turkey you harvest, because that's pretty cool. Go all the way up to the joint. And just break the joint there. If you do it right, you shouldn't have to break any bones. Again, if you want to save that wing, you want to cut it off with that bone intact, which gives it some stability there, because like this is just sort of floppy. We're also going to, of course, keep as much of the neck as we can. Because again, lots of meat, we can make broth out of that. All sorts of yumminess. And the nice thing about cleaning your turkey out in the wilderness where you harvested it is you don't have to worry about the mess. You just leave it for nature to run its course. So you can already start to see this thing, if you haven't processed a turkey before, or a chicken or anything else for that matter, you start to see it starting to take the shape of what you're used to seeing in the grocery store. Sort of. A wild bird is going to be a lot more lean, and they're getting a lot more exercise because they're out traveling miles and miles and miles every day, and hiding and running from predators and flying up in trees. You know, turkeys sleep in trees, flying up in trees to sleep. So your bird's going to be more lean. Your dark meat's going to have, the bird in general is going to have a lot more flavor, especially the dark meat. It's going to taste different than the store-bought turkey, but not so much that it's off-putting. It just, I would just say, it just turns up the taste of everything. A lot of people, and part of the reason also why you might see, or I might have, you see birds that are just breasted, is that the dark meat can have a pretty strong flavor if you don't process it correctly. And again, that's why we're going to brine it, because brining it's going to put a lot of water, salt water, soak it into the bird. And make it more moist, and it's also going to tone down that stronger flavor that you might find in the brown meat. So again, we're just popping the joint on that, and then we can just cut right through the middle of that. So once again, the first couple turkeys that I harvested, I kept the feet. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool little trophy. I've seen people hang them from their rearview mirrors. They dry really easily. I mean, you really don't have to do anything with them. You could just sit them out in a nice place, nice ventilated spot, and dry it. Again, you can sort of pose it if you want, because it will dry, you know, how you put it. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it looks like a dinosaur foot or something. Okay, so these birds are both pretty ready to go. We took the time to go over and get most of the pin feathers out. You'll notice they're not perfect, and they don't need to be perfect. In fact, the turkeys that you buy in the grocery store nowadays are bred to be white, so these little pin feathers, you don't see them. So not a big deal. Most of them will burn off when we cook it, and you also won't see them because they'll be nice and toasty brown. So we'll move from here over to the table to get these brining, but both of these turkeys are pretty much ready to go. So now that we have harvested our turkey, we have cleaned our turkey, now a very important step in the process is going to be brining our turkey. Because our turkeys, especially because our turkeys are wild, they're not going to be as fat, they're going to be more lean than the store-bought turkeys. You can definitely, and I highly suggest you brining any turkey, whether you buy it in the grocery store or shoot it in your backyard, but especially for wild turkeys. So we're gonna make a brine. It's super easy, but very important. We're gonna let these guys brine for a minimum of 24 hours. I'm gonna probably let these brine for 48 to 72 hours. 72 hours is great. It's gonna get lots of moisture in there so that they're nice and moist, and get some flavor in them as well. The taste of a wild turkey is a little bit different than your store-bought turkey. You know, these were walking around and clucking, eating bugs and grass 48 hours ago. So, you know, your store-bought turkeys are bleached and pumped full of salt water and stuff. These are gonna have more flavor, which can just taste different. Not necessarily off, but brining them is going to tone that down just a little bit, that wild flavor. Yeah, so let's get started. This is not hard, not super complicated. We're gonna take an onion, and we're just gonna roughly chop it. We're going to add that to our pot. We're gonna take a couple garlic cloves. You can never have too much garlic, but I would say probably at least 2 or 3 cloves. Okay, we're gonna roughly chop the garlic. We're gonna put about a cup of white wine in there. You can tell this is very scientific. We're gonna add lemon. So you can do a whole lemon. I'm doing a half a lemon. I'm gonna cut it into quarters. We're gonna add that in. It's gonna add a little acidity to our brine. We're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of peppercorns. If you don't have peppercorns, you can just add pepper. We are going to add some herbs. If you got herbs in your garden, just go collect what you have. Right now, we're kind of in the late fall, so we got perennial herbs that are left over right now. So we have some rosemary, which are great with wild game. We have sage, also great with wild game.
We've got some thyme. I'm even throwing a little pine in there so we can get a little bit of the taste of the forest in there with them. So we're gonna add all those in to our brine. And then most importantly, what is a brine without salt, right? So we're gonna add about a cup of salt, so quite a bit of salt. And then we're gonna take about 2 cups of water and we're gonna add that in for now. Because what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take this in, we're gonna get this boiling so that all that salt dissolves and all the flavor of that stuff we put in there, brings that flavor out and gets it into the water. We'll boil that, bring that back out, and then we'll add some more water in the birds. So let's go get this boiling. Okay, so we have added cold water to this, so this is nice and cold. We don't want it hot, because if it's hot, we're going to cook our birds, and we don't want to cook them right now. So all that's left is just to add our birds to the brine. I've got 2 pots that I actually did because you want your bird fully submerged in this. So we'll put birds in separate pots so that they're all the way in the water. But this is simple. This is taking your bird, sticking it in water. So in it goes. This bird is all the way in. You'll also notice something. I left the neck on here. So we're gonna brine it with the neck on. And then when we clean the birds and prepare them for cooking, we'll take the neck off because we'll use that for giblet gravy. You can make broth, use it in all kinds of ways, but we wanna keep that neck. We also have the livers and the heart, of course, that we'll utilize for that stuff. But we're brining it with the neck on. We'll take that off later. But turkeys go in. They need to sit for, again, minimum of 24 hours. They can go up to 72 hours because, again, these birds are fresh. They can handle it. Keep them in your fridge. Right now, for us, it's cold outside. So we're going to leave them outside and let them brine for a few days. And then our first turkey, which is what we're going to do next, is we're going to spatchcock this thing and we're going to grill it. And you're going to be surprised at how amazing this bird's going to turn out by grilling it that way. Okay, so it's been about 72 hours. We've got this thing nice and brine. I just pulled it out of the pot, patted it dry a little bit. We'll pat it dry a little bit more because we want this bird nice and dry. So we're gonna spatchcock this turkey and I'm gonna show you how to do it. It's not difficult and it's a great way to cook your bird and I'm gonna tell you why, for several reasons actually. I mean, you love the taste of meat on a grill, right? So let's get that out of the way right away. But secondly, what this is going to do is it's going to open the bird up so it cooks evenly. So a bird, this is probably 7-8 pound turkey. This turkey, where it's going to cook for several hours in your oven, on the grill, it's going to take maybe 45 minutes to cook this bird. It's going to cook evenly. The skin's going to be super crispy, and the meat's going to be extra moist. So it's like that's a win-win-win-win in every category. It's also going to be a beautiful presentation. So there's no downside to this. And it's not difficult to do. And plus, it's cool to say, hey, I spatchcocked my turkey. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the neck because we're going to keep that for gravy. So first thing we'll do is we'll cut that off. We'll set that aside. Next, you can see we got our breasts up here. We're gonna flip the bird over to the back. So this is the backbone that runs up the turkey. And turn the bird around so you can see this. So right here, you're gonna cut as close as you can along the backbone all the way up because we wanna open this bird up and fillet it open like a butterfly. So bring it over here. I use scissors, and you can spatchcock anything. I mean, not anything. You can spatchcock any bird, really. I do this a lot with chickens. You can do this with quarters, game hens, duck. Pretty much any bird you can cook this way. So we're gonna take it and we're gonna go right up the backbone. Again, keeping it as close to the backbone as we can so we can keep as much meat on there as possible. But also we're gonna keep this because we're gonna use this to make broth with, or to include in the gravy as well. So. Scissors work great for this. And there we go, one side. We're gonna do the other side. With smaller birds, this is going to be a little easier because what you're cutting through is not quite as thick and dense. Good. Okay, so there we got the backbone. The backbone is out. And here's our bird. So we're gonna make sure that we cut it all the way up. Oh, so here we go. Here's something to think about too with a wild bird, is we got the crop. So that's what we just cut into there. Obviously we don't want the crop in there. So this is all the stuff that bird's been eating. So you're gonna see here, this is the crop on this bird. I mean, this bird, when you leave the neck on, a lot of times you're gonna get the crop that you gotta clean out. So cool to see that you're eating something that's not eating corn, not eating processed food, but this bird is eating berries and nuts. And so it's got some of the snowberries, some of the white berries we have around here, a lot of grass, there's some bugs in there. So we'll clean this up, we'll rinse this out a little bit. And then we'll get on to dry brining it. So we cleaned the crop out. Funny story actually. I had a friend who we went turkey hunting a couple years ago. His son shot a turkey. They didn't clean the crop out. They cooked it. They were all excited for Thanksgiving. You know the moment when you cut into the turkey? They had it sitting out on the table. They cut into that turkey for that moment and the crop spilled open out. And everyone was just like, they didn't end up eating the turkey. So make sure you clean your crop out. So we got this bird opened up. Also gives you a chance to clean out any things that you might have missed. Sometimes some lungs and stuff will get lost up in there. But we'll flip it over. And you're gonna wanna push down on it. And there we go. And you can hear it kind of pop. And that's gonna give us a nice open piece of meat for grilling, if you can see that. So what we're gonna do before we start grilling is that we're going to do a dry rub on this bird. I do my own dry rub. You can do whatever you'd like in terms of a rub. I do pretty equal parts pepper, garlic, salt, some Johnny's, some oregano, and then not equal parts because I do a little bit of paprika. Paprika can be strong and you don't want to overpower with that, so I do a little paprika in there. So if you can see that, so we'll mix that all together. And we're gonna rub that on our bird. We're gonna let that sit for an hour or two at least. It lets the skin continue to dry out, especially that salt will help dry the bird out. So we're gonna get that all over our bird. Especially on the skin, because that skin's gonna get really dry and nice and crispy. So we'll have super moist meat and crispy skin. So we wanna make sure that we get all of the skin covered. Flip it over. So you can see how nice and clean that is now. Make sure that you pat it dry as well before you do this. So the paper towels are for, and you can see that I got as much moisture off there as possible. But again, giving it some time will let that bird kind of dry out. So
We're gonna leave it right here to dry out for the next couple hours. And we'll come back here in a little bit and we'll get it on the grill. All right, here's our bird, which has been sitting in our dry rub out here, which is super cold, by the way, so totally fine keeping it in the cold like this. It's probably 30 degrees out here, but it's getting nice and dry. That skin is drying out real nice for us, and we will get this bird on the grill here pretty soon. We got the Traeger at about 400 degrees, and we started the bird's skin down for about 15 minutes, then we flipped it. So we are grilling, and it is cold out here. You can probably see my breath. So you want to get an internal temperature on your turkey about 165 degrees. Depending on the size of your turkey, ours is going to take about 45 minutes probably, but we're grilling on the Traeger right now. As it's grilling, I've got a little garlic butter base that I'm going to kind of baste it as it cooks. And that's it. We're going to cook for about 45 minutes, and we're going to have a delicious turkey here in just a little bit of time. This skin is already super crispy. This butter is just going to continue to like crisp up that skin and add flavor. Woo! It makes my mouth water.
Me too. We're both going to pray.
Lord, we thank you for this supply on our table. We just thank you that you provide all of our needs. And we just
That's right.
I want a leg, Daddy.
I know.
Ooh, actually, I want that piece of meat right there. Leg. All right, Daddy. Dada, you want some leg? You want a leg like me? Daddy, River wants a leg.
How moist that is.
It's beautiful. You bite right here. Bite right there. Good bite.
It's yummy. It's chicken.
So Grandma, how's that turkey right there?
Back up on your chair so you don't fall off. Honey. So good. Back up on your chair, River, so you don't fall off. Okay.